If one were to show a cutscene of Kena Bridge of Spirits to anyone on the street and tell them that it's a scene from a new Disney Pixar movie, I'd suspect the vast majority of people unaware of the gaming world would believe it. Ember Lab flaunts their background as an animation studio in every visual detail in this first foray into game development, creating the interactive movie we've all been wishing existed for over 3 decades of really bad licensed video games. Even on the weakest possible hardware, the base PlayStation 4, Kena Bridge of Spirits looks fantastic, and it leaves you hooked with just enough mysterious breadcrumbs in the story to have you craving more, stringing it all together with the most acclaimed old-school gameplay from the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox era, all set to a beautifully meditative soundtrack. If there's any one recommendation I could give you about this game, stop listening to reviews and go experience it for yourself, before all of its splendor is spoiled. This review will only feature basic plot and gameplay spoilers, but nothing extremely major to the big story. The theme of Kena Bridge of Spirits is a surprisingly dark but most welcome one that at times even breaks the fourth wall. The protagonist, Kena, is a spirit guide sent to a mysterious village to help lost souls lay their guilt and other anguish to rest and move on to the afterlife. The deeper details of the story are presented exactly like a Disney Pixar movie, opening with an ominous figure who seems to be poisoning the natural world with some sort of mystic energy. Then it immediately transitions to a utopian landscape with 2 adorable children running around playing with the cutest little squishy creatures known rather unfittingly as rot. All of this is accompanied by wonderfully timed orchestral swells that seem to punch straight out of the game and into the feelings department, letting you know you're in for something big. We soon learn the children Benny and Saya are looking for their older brother Taro, as they escort Kena to a very Japanese-themed village infested with poisonous tree roots and monsters. This is the entire surface-level theme of the game, healing the poison and restoring the natural beauty of the world, which is very therapeutic in itself and looks amazing every time. But the theme of healing very quickly hits deeper when Kena meets the village elder Zaju, who speaks in a wise, comforting tone of masks crafted to honor the dead, before handing over a mask for Taro, the elder brother we're searching for.
So you know what happens to spirits unable to move on. Take Taro's mask. It is bound to his spirit, and will help you fulfill your promise to the children.
As characters physically teleport in and out on our journey, we soon learn everyone in this world is dead, even if they seem unaware of it themselves. And our sole objective is to help all involved overcome the terrible pain of loss, unraveling individual stories in reverse from their tragic finish, to learn what really happened and why some spirits are consumed in agony, unable to move on. The presentation of these big reveals is very well done, perfectly portraying the dichotomy of the innocent bliss of life and the paralyzing terror of death. And if you are at all curious to learn the full story of Benny, Saya, and their older brother Taro, you may want to first invest in a box of tissues. Their story alone is told in a final cutscene that's over 6 minutes long, and every moment of it has you clinging in uncomfortable silence, hoping what you already know to be true is not actually how it ends.
Oh no! No! Benny! Saya!
And even in the final moments of healing, where the spirits finally accept peace, Ember Lab makes you sit in the soggy middle of your feelings sandwich with a smooth transition that heals the world, but it cuts out all sound except for the gentle wind blowing, birds chirping, and Kena herself is forced to meditate on the ground, as if the game itself is reminding you to take a deep breath and just swallow the pain. As the camera pans from one big landscape shot to the next, whether you're emotionally ready or not, those people are forever gone, and there's more work to be done. So as a player, if you've ever had to say goodbye to a loved one, Kena will draw out those feelings and force you to practice coping with loss yourself. When I personally got to this point of the game, I was teary-eyed, speechless, in disbelief that I was playing a video game, and simultaneously desperate for more. So that's what to expect of the story, themes, and visual presentation, but what about the gameplay itself? Well, this is where the game begins to show a few shortcomings, but certainly nothing so bad that it's not worth your time. Let's first talk about combat, which is a big focal point necessary to heal all the poisoned areas. Kena wields a magical staff that is used as a battering weapon, at first only offering a weak attack and a strong attack. All the monsters are variations of mangled trees and earth, and as you smack them with Kena's stick, waiting for the life bar to deplete, sometimes it just feels stale and weak. But like most open world games, there is a skill tree for purchasing upgrades with a currency called Karma. Karma is simply acquired by healing the environment in all kinds of ways, such as fixing falling over statues or clearing monuments from poisonous obstructions. So after a very few slow beginning fights, Kena will be able to purchase dash attacks, an aerial slam attack, and a very effective move known as the Rot Hammer, which uses the adorable creatures you find around the world for a really high damage blow. The Rot truly are the focus of the gameplay, as they are the sole factor in Kena leveling up, which unlocks new abilities for purchasing. They also behave like Pikmin on the Nintendo GameCube, as Kena can order them to carry objects to reach new locations and also solve some puzzles. In combat, the Rot flee at first in fear, but as Kena dishes out the pain, their courage fills up. A full courage point can be used to perform a Rot action, such as the previously mentioned Rot Hammer move, or the highly effective Rot Bind, which stunlocks enemies long enough to buy Kena time to get in a few attacks or make a desperate escape. But the combat vastly improves over time with the introduction of both the bow and the bomb abilities. With these, Kena begins to feel more like Link from the Legend of Zelda series, and the variety of how to attack enemies increases. However, many of the skill tree upgrades beyond the ones mentioned are minimal, like being able to carry 5 arrows instead of 4, even though the arrows already regenerate very quickly. Once you have the big Rot Power moves and some dash attacks, there really isn't much desire or necessity to buy any of the other upgrades. But perhaps even more relatively useless than that is the other collectible, blue gems that act as money. These gems are often the reward for combat challenges and hidden treasure chests, but they can only buy one thing: hats for your little Rot friends to wear. While the hats are cute and neat to find along your journey, they offer nothing else to the game, and it just feels empty to have so many gems and nothing worthwhile to spend them on. And lastly, in terms of combat, come the boss fights. These take a little bit to ramp up, but in the early middle part of the adventure, they will demand more strategy and variations of your attacks. They often have optional weak points, like yellow knots bulging out of their gnarled form, that deal a satisfying heavy blow to their life, and the music during the battles is always outstanding. Never do they feel unwelcome and boring, even if the combat at its core is relatively stale. The big bosses tied to the major story characters are very well done, and definitely the best on offer in the entire game. But the fact that the other minor bosses start to repeat as standard enemies in the late game is a pretty cool aspect too. But overall, the fighting system in Kena Bridge of Spirits is definitely the weakest aspect of the game, but it does make fantastic use of what it is, fully embracing the old school mechanics of adventure classics, but fusing enough new things in there to keep it relevant. Where Kena Bridge of Spirits excels as a video game instead of just an animated movie is in the open world exploration and puzzle solving. Simply roaming around the lush greenery or the wide open fields, set to the wonderfully orchestrated work of Theophany and Company, is heavenly after a tough day. It's incredibly easy to relax while playing this game, and I cannot applaud enough how well it captures the idea of meditation without boring you to death. The game clearly doesn't care what other games it imitates, or if the gems and hats that you find around aren't very engaging. It just wants you to breathe in the environment and water that seed of wonder it's planted in your head. It wants you to explore, but also relax wherever it feels necessary. So whether you are scaling huge cliffs like in Prince of Persia, witnessing a massive mechanical beast in a huge field like in Horizon Zero Dawn, or solving a timed platform sequence with mystical bombs like in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the common denominator of relaxation will blanket your mind, perhaps once again breaking the fourth wall with its theme of healing. It is meditation for the uninitiated, who could otherwise never sit in silence without feeling some kind of pain. The puzzles themselves are varied just enough to be fun in every instance, and the Breath of the Wild inspiration really shows with the glowing blue objects and the slow-motion aerial bow shots. Many times it feels just like an outdoor shrine puzzle from that game. Kena Bridge of Spirits is very self-aware too, making sure you are never doing one thing for too long. After a nice chunk of easy exploration and platforming, it will throw a heavy story trigger at you, or a big boss battle with pounding drums and busy strings fueling your motivation. And during all these change-ups, you will always have the wonder in the back of your mind about the spirit you are trying to heal, curious about how their tale plays out. However, there are a few disappointments that hold it back from being a truly flawless game. This game will surely have you by the heartstrings once you complete the first chapter concerning Benny, Saya, and Taro. You will be eager to see more character stories and all the ways that tragedy has struck people, because the emotion of confronting that loss and coping with it feels like nothing else any game has ever delivered, and sometimes we need to be moved in that way just to let go of our own troubles. However, the game's second chapter is the last one before the finale, totaling just 3 major spirits that need healing, the latter 2 of which are not nearly as emotionally moving or enticing as the first, but they do still touch strongly on the unwavering human spirit and love. But we also don't ever really learn much about Kena either, other than one source of trauma in her life, which leaves a lot up for speculation. The game is about 10 hours long from start to finish, which by today's standards for an adventure is pretty short. And after such a great first 2 hours, it's hard to not be a little disappointed in how abruptly it's over. The majority of the poisoned houses in the main village hub are simply brief side quests tied to the final collectible in the game, Spirit Mail. Scattered across the world, Kena will find Spirit Mail to deposit in specific mailboxes in the village, therefore gaining access to the corresponding house where a combat challenge likely awaits. Cleansing the home results in a copy-paste cutscene showing unnamed spirits bowing in thanks, and usually results in a horde of all the other collectibles, which we've already stated only go so far in purpose. It's certainly nice to watch the poison dissipate and the village come back to life, but it's a minor thing that fills a very big space that could have been filled with so much more. These very big spaces I just mentioned, especially in the main village, can lead to heavy stuttering on the PlayStation 4. The game maintains a solid 30 frames per second, but in moments of stuttering, combined with the default motion blur settings, the camera can be very jittery, making it hard to spot small details in such a busy, lush environment, so it can be a little jagged and dizzying at times. I'd imagine on the more powerful PlayStation 5, which maintains a solid 60 frames per second, this is probably less of an issue or not even present at all. This can probably be said for every minor performance issue that I encountered. On PlayStation 4, cutscenes sometimes loaded in textures very late into the shot, and transitions from pre-rendered cinematics to in-game cutscenes were consistently jumpy, sometimes carrying with it a subtitle glitch showing filler dummy text. Speech, audio, and cutscenes also did not always sync up with the mouth movements.
Something tells me you did not come to our village looking for forest creatures.
Hello, Spirit. I seek passage to the sacred mountain shrine.
However, the only real major bug that I encountered was a very strange instance where I grabbed a ledge and the game seemingly forced Kena far along an X-axis before completely teleporting her very far back to a previous section of the map. Luckily, I only encountered this twice, once while recording footage and once while just playing on my own time. Both instances were in the early part of the game and occurred when I grabbed a ledge, but I can't say what directly caused the glitch to happen, or whether it's code-related or hardware-related. So for my final verdict, Kena Bridge of Spirits was on my most wanted list when I first set eyes on it, and the game delivered in ways I didn't even know I wanted or needed. The Pixar-esque animation is outstanding from start to finish, and the score that accompanies it helps cultivate a movie landscape chock full of emotional punches, blissful pockets of relaxation, and intensely heroic moments of determination. The presentation is truly immaculate, and the heavy theme of death and loss is so beautifully done, intricately woven with moments of meditation, where Kena herself almost acts like a therapist, guiding not only the burdened spirits in the game to a realm of healing, but sometimes even taking you, the player, there as well. The 10-hour runtime is a little too brief, however, and when combined with the fairly repetitive combat system and some relatively useless collectibles, it leaves one hoping for a sequel that really fleshes out the immense positives that the game does have. And you know what? All things considered, those positives far outweigh the shortcomings, filling those 10 hours with captivating gameplay and story that generate a sense of wonder and immersion, the closest I've felt personally since being a kid. At full price, I'd highly recommend this game, and if it's ever on sale, then it's a no-brainer, absolute must-play title. I easily give this game a 9 out of 10, and cannot wait to see what Ember Lab does next. Here's to hoping we don't have to wait too long for a sequel that really shows us who Kena is and delivers even more touching character stories with this masterful level of animation.